You book a luxury cruise for the ocean views, the midnight buffets, and the total disconnection from the real world.
Right, the ultimate getaway.
Exactly. You certainly don't expect it to become a lockdown floating petri dish for a deadly pathogen.
No, definitely not.
But according to the cutting-edge intelligence and research we are pouring over today, from ANRS ME and VIDO, that 2026 Hantavirus cruise ship scenario is exactly the kind of invisible threat that global health security operates against every single day.
It really is. We are looking squarely at a monumental shift in how humanity fights back. I mean, the sources we are examining from these two leading institutions detail a fascinating intersection of physical engineering, biological surveillance, and quantum computation.
It's basically sci-fi playing out in real life. Today's deep dive is a mission to understand the complex, rapidly evolving machinery that keeps these microscopic threats from rewriting our reality.
Yeah, and we should say up front, the goal today isn't to induce paranoia about your next vacation.
Right. Please still go on vacation.
Yeah, exactly. The goal is to illuminate the incredibly sophisticated, coordinated defense systems working quietly in the background of our hyper-connected world.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the 2026 outbreak is the perfect lens to view this through. The reports point specifically to an outbreak of the Andes strain of hantavirus on a massive luxury resort at sea.
Yes, the Andes strain.
When we look at this strain, we are looking at the terrifying math of zoonotic spillover. That precise moment an animal pathogen successfully breaches human biology.
Right, and what's fascinating here is the mechanics of that specific breach. Because, well, with most hantaviruses, the transmission is strictly environmental.
Environmental meaning what? Like touching a dirty surface?
Essentially, yeah. You have infected rodents in rural or wild areas, and they're shedding the virus through saliva, urine, or droppings.
Okay.
And then a human comes along, maybe sweeping out a dusty cabin or hiking through dense brush, and they inhale the aerosolized viral particles.
So they just breathe it in by accident.
Exactly. It is a tragedy for that individual, obviously, but biologically speaking, humans are a dead end for the virus.
A dead end. So the virus basically gets trapped in the wrong host.
Yes. It cannot figure out how to jump from that infected human to the person standing next to them.
It doesn't have the biological keys to exit one human and enter another.
Under normal circumstances, yes. But the Andes strain is dangerously unique in the hantavirus family because it has evolved to bypass that dead end.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it has demonstrated the rare, highly lethal ability for human-to-human transmission. The virus adapts, likely through mutations in its surface glycoproteins, which allows it to efficiently bind to human cell receptors and spread through close personal contact or potentially even respiratory droplets.
Which fundamentally changes the timeline and the scale of the threat.
Completely.
If it's just environmental, you can, cordon off the dusty cabin.
Right, you isolate the source.
But if it's human to human, the threat is walking around. And a cruise ship is the ultimate amplifier for that.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about it. It docks at a remote port. A passenger takes a shore excursion, breathes in the aerosolized virus from an environmental source, and then just walks back up the gangway.
And brings it right into a closed system.
Exactly. Suddenly, that closed ecosystem, thousands of people sharing the same dining halls, the same elevators, the same recirculated air conditioning, turns a single, localized spillover event into an exponential crisis at sea.
It really is the paradox of modern travel. I mean, the very infrastructure that allows us to explore remote, untouched environments is the exact same infrastructure that can instantly transport an isolated pathogen into a dense population center.
It's a terrifying thought.
It is. Once human-to-human transmission begins in an environment with shared HVAC systems and crowded corridors, it is a race against viral evolution. Every single hour that passes allows the virus to replicate, spread, and potentially mutate further.
Right. So if one infected passenger can trigger an exponential crisis at sea, the immediate question is, where do we safely isolate and dismantle a virus this contagious?
You definitely need a specialized facility.
Because you can't just take a sample of the Andes strain, put it in a standard laboratory hood, and hope for the best.
No, absolutely not. That would be disastrous.
So that requires a very specific, almost militarized architectural response. Which brings us to the second major focus of our sources, which is VIDO.
Yes, the Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization based in Canada.
Right. And VIDO is Canada's premier center for pandemic research. The reports highlight a massive milestone for them, their 50-year anniversary.
Yeah, that is half a century of accumulated institutional memory in the fight against the world's most dangerous pathogens. It's incredibly significant.
But their most critical asset is their physical infrastructure, right? They operate at the absolute highest security levels known to science. Maximum containment.
Maximum containment, biosafety level 4, or BSL-4.
See, I hear maximum containment, and I immediately think of endless red tape, massive steel airlocks, pressurized suits, and just crippling bureaucracy.
That's a common reaction.
So let me play skeptic for a second. When an outbreak is spreading exponentially on a ship, doesn't this level of extreme security paralyze our response time? Are these biomedical Fort Knox facilities truly necessary? Or is this an overabundance of caution that fundamentally slows down the science?
It's a really valid question and a common misconception, but I have to push back heavily on the idea that it's just red tape.
Okay, tell me why.
Because these maximum containment protocols, this biosafety level 4, they are entirely non-negotiable. They are the baseline physics of survival.
The physics of survival.
Yes. When you are dealing with it means that as you move deeper into the laboratory toward the most dangerous pathogens, the air pressure systematically drops.
Okay.
So if a door is opened, or if a seal miraculously fails, the air always rushes inward, never outward. The building is essentially inhaling at all times.
Oh, wow. So the pathogen is fighting a literal physical current just to reach the exit.
Exactly. And that is just the airflow. The researchers themselves are encapsulated in positive pressure suits.
Like spacesuits?
Very similar, yeah. They drag their own life support systems with them. And because the suits are positive pressure, if a suit gets snagged and punctures, the high pressure inside the suit blasts clean air out through the hole.
Preventing the deadly air of the laboratory from rushing in.
Precisely, and it goes further. Every drop of water, every piece of waste, every breath of exhaust air is superheated, chemically sterilized, or passed through layers of HEPA filters before it ever leaves the building.
It sounds like designing a submarine, but instead of keeping the crushing weight of the ocean out, you are keeping the microscopic environment locked in.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. I mean, if a ventilation system fails in a standard lab, you evacuate. If it fails here, the pathogen doesn't just infect the scientist, it breaches the facility and enters the local community.
Right.
So the security doesn't slow the science down, it is the only thing that makes the science mathematically possible.
Because you can't do the science if everyone is sick.
Exactly. You cannot develop a vaccine if your researchers are exposed, and you cannot protect the globe if your laboratory becomes ground zero for a new outbreak.
That makes total sense.
And VIDO's 50-year legacy means they haven't just built these complex machines, they have perfected the deeply unforgiving human culture of safety required to operate inside them.
Okay, so we have the physical containment, we have the virus locked in the box, and we have the researchers safely inside with it.
Right.
But having the pathogen isolated is only the first step. You still have to decode it, and you have to do it faster than the virus can spread through the lower decks of that cruise ship.
Speed is the ultimate metric here. A virus replicates relentlessly, it doesn't sleep.
No.
So to defeat it, human ingenuity has to operate on a timescale that outpaces biological evolution.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Our sources highlight a massive, paradigm-shifting technological revolution happening inside the secure walls of places like VIDO.
The tech integration is unbelievable.
We aren't just relying on microscopes, pipettes, and observation anymore. We are bringing in artificial intelligence and quantum computing to radically accelerate how we develop treatments.
Yes. The intersection of advanced virology and quantum computation is completely rewriting the rulebook of pandemic response. It shifts our entire methodology from empirical trial and error to rational, predictive design.
Okay, let me see if I can map this out with an analogy.
Go for it.
If traditional treatment development is like trying to navigate a massive, incredibly complex maze by walking down every single corridor, hitting dead ends, turning around, and trying another path.
A process that takes years of physical testing, by the way.
Right. So quantum computing completely changes the approach. Instead of walking the maze, quantum computing is like flooding the entire maze with water from above.
I likes that.
The water instantly fills every corridor, every dead end, and finds the exit simultaneously. It maps the solution in an instant.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that flooding analogy beautifully captures how quantum mechanics solves the specific biological bottleneck of vaccine development, which is the protein folding problem.
Okay, explain protein folding. Why is that the roadblock?
Well, a virus's ability to infect us to pick the lock on our human cells basically comes down to its physical three-dimensional structure, specifically the shape of its surface proteins.
The spike proteins we always hear about.
Exactly. Now, a protein is essentially a long chain of amino acids, but it doesn't stay a straight line. It folds in on itself into an incredibly intricate, crumpled shape.
What dictates how it crumples?
It's based on complex atomic forces, attractions, and repulsions between the molecules.
And the final shape it takes dictates how it interacts with our biology.
Precisely. If we know the exact folded shape of the virus's spike protein, we can design a highly specific vaccine molecule to bind to it and neutralize it.
Sounds straightforward enough.
In theory, yes. The problem is there are an astronomical number of ways a single chain of amino acids can fold.
How many are we talking?
We are talking about a number of possibilities greater than the number of atoms in the observable universe.
Oh, okay, yeah, that is a problem, which is why traditional computers choke on it, right? A classical supercomputer processes information linearly, as ones and zeros. It has to calculate every single folding possibility one by one.
Right, it's walking the maze.
Exactly.
It could take a traditional supercomputer thousands of years to definitively calculate the optimal folded structure of a novel viral protein.
Thousands of years.
Yeah. But quantum computers leverage the principles of quantum mechanics superposition and entanglement. They don't process linearly. They process vast, complex variables simultaneously.
They flood maze.
They flood the maze.
So when that cruise ship goes into lockdown with a mutating Andes strain, VIDO doesn't have to spend 3 years physically testing different protein structures in petri dishes.
No, they sequence the genome of the virus, feed that raw data into the quantum AI matrix, and the computer instantly simulates the physics of the protein folding.
Instantly.
Pretty much. The quantum computer models the structure, and then the artificial intelligence algorithms, which have been trained on billions of biological data points, scan that structure to predict which vaccine candidates will effectively bind to it.
That is unbelievable.
A process that used to consume a decade of trial and error is compressed into a matter of days or even hours.
It is absolute science fiction. The technology essentially shrinks our window of vulnerability from years down to days.
It does.
But there's a massive logistical blind spot here, isn't there? I mean, a supercomputer in Canada is entirely useless if it doesn't know what to look for.
That is the crux of the issue. Viruses do not respect borders. A quantum algorithm cannot simulate a pathogen it hasn't seen yet.
Right. You can have the most advanced quantum AI matrix on Earth, but if an outbreak starts in a remote port and nobody sequences it until it's already circulating on a ship bound for 3 different countries, the technology is reacting too late.
Way too late.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most crucial piece of the intelligence reports we are unpacking today, and that is the global matrix.
This is where the reports heavily emphasize the role of ANRS MIE alongside VIDO.
ANRS MIE.
Yes, it's the French Agency for Research on Emerging Infectious Diseases. But more importantly, they function as a critical node in a massive, coordinated global defense network.
Okay.
They represent the international effort to monitor, synthesize, and combat these threats collectively.
So what does this all mean? How does an agency like ANRS MIE actually function on a day-to-day basis to feed data into these high-tech labs?
This raises an important question about the logistics of preparedness, because global health security is the ultimate team sport.
A team sport.
Yeah. ANRS MIE doesn't just sit in Paris running its own isolated experiments. They coordinate international clinical trials, they fund ground-level epidemiological research, and crucially, they build and maintain surveillance networks across multiple continents.
Especially in areas where zoonotic spillover is likely.
Exactly, highly vulnerable regions.
So they are essentially building the biological early warning radar.
They are the central nervous system of infectious disease intelligence. Let's map a hypothetical data flow to show how this works.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's say a doctor in a rural clinic in Patagonia notices an unusual cluster of severe respiratory distress in patients who recently cleared a forested area.
Okay, a potential spillover event.
Right. Under a robust global matrix, that doctor doesn't just treat the symptoms in isolation. They swab the patients and send the samples to a regional health authority.
Who then sequences the genome of the pathogen.
Yes. They sequence it, identify it as a mutated Andes strain, and immediately push that genomic data up the chain to coordinating agencies like ANRS MIE.
And ANRS MIE acts as the hub.
Right, they synthesize this intelligence, validate the threat level, and instantly route that genetic blueprint to high containment research centers like VIDO.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So the physical virus might still be locked down in a clinic thousands of miles away, but its digital blueprint is already sitting on a server in Canada.
Within minutes.
Wow.
And because VIDO has the level 4 containment infrastructure to safely handle the eventual physical samples and the quantum AI capabilities to analyze the digital data.
They can start printing potential vaccine candidates before the pathogen ever crosses an ocean.
Precisely.
It fundamentally reframes how you look at the world. It's not just a lone, brilliant scientist in a white coat having a eureka moment in a basement.
No, those days are over.
It is a highly choreographed international dance of data, physics, biology, and diplomacy.
And it must operate seamlessly because pathogens are constantly testing our defenses. The 50-year legacy of institutions like VIDO and the expansive reach of agencies like ANRS ME, they aren't just testaments to scientific advancement. They are testaments to the international trust required to share sensitive biological data across borders in real time. The quantum computer is the sword, and the Level 4 lab is the shield. But the global surveillance network is the eyes and ears required to use them accurately.
It is intensely reassuring when you step back and look at the whole board.
Okay.
I mean, we started this deep dive with a chilling reality, right?
Yeah.
A 2026 outbreak of the highly infectious human-to-human Andes strain Hantavirus on a crowded luxury cruise ship.
A terrifying example of zoonotic spillover amplified by modern travel.
A scenario that demands an uncompromising rapid response architecture.
Absolutely.
But then we trace the counterattack. We walk through the heavily fortified negative pressure walls of VIDO, realizing that these extreme containment environments aren't bureaucratic roadblocks. They are the literal physics of survival that allow us to engage the enemy safely.
Exactly.
We explored the mind-bending reality of quantum computing, flooding the maze of protein folding to turn a decade of trial and error into instant architectural blueprints.
And we anchored all of that isolated technological power in the vital, coordinated global network managed by agencies like ANRS MIE.
Right, proving that humanity's best defense mechanism isn't just a machine, but our collective ability to communicate and share intelligence across borders.
Yes.
And for you listening, this is why understanding this unseen machinery matters. You might think zoonotic diseases are a distant problem, something that happens deep in a remote forest.
It's easier to think that.
But we live in a hyper-connected reality. The imported food on your table, the package dropped on your porch from halfway across the world, the international flight you take for a business trip, these represent the exact same global supply chains and travel networks that pathogens use to travel.
They hitch a ride on our infrastructure.
Exactly. Your daily life is intimately tied to the success of this global matrix. It is a massive, quiet effort operating 24/7 to ensure we can safely navigate a shared biological world.
It is a profound shift in our relationship with nature. We are no longer passively waiting for the next spillover event. We are actively monitoring the boundaries, decoding the threats, and preparing the countermeasures before the alarms even sound.
Absolutely. Which leaves me with one final, provocative thought to leave you with today.
Oh, let's hear it.
We talk about the monumental shift from microscopes to microchips. Since AI and quantum computing are rapidly accelerating our ability to map, simulate, and defeat these viruses at an unprecedented scale. Scale.
Yeah.
Could the ultimate cure for the next major zoonotic threat be discovered not by a biologist physically holding a test tube in a laboratory, but by a predictive algorithm running silently on a quantum chip in the middle of the night?
Identifying a solution before a human mind even fully grasps the problem.
Exactly.
That is the precipice of the new frontier we are standing on.
It really makes you rethink what the future of medicine looks like. So the next time you look out at a vast, beautiful ocean or track a package coming from across the globe, just remember the invisible currents of data, physics, and global cooperation working tirelessly beneath the surface to keep us all safe.
Well said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we will see you on the next deep dive.